channel. Today I'm back with some more Dollar Tree Christmas DIYs. I'll be showing you 3 different projects that are all really easy to do. I've been having so much fun creating new Christmas decor pieces, and I have so many more planned, so make sure that you're subscribed to my channel so that you don't miss out on any of those future videos. Also, let me know in the comments down below if there's any projects that you're wanting to see from me. Let's get started on today's DIYs. First up is this rustic wooden block Christmas tree, and for this project I use Decor art chalk paint in the color Lace, folk art chalk paint in the color Castle, Waverly chalk paint in the color Moss, paintbrushes, jute, 2 tumbling tower games from Dollar Tree, berry garland from Dollar Tree, my hot glue gun, burlap fabric, Christmas ribbon from Dollar Tree, and scissors. To start out, I'm painting 34 of my tumbling tower blocks in my chalk paint in the color Lace, and I did 1 coat of this paint. You could always use spray paint to make it a little bit easier. Then I'm painting 5 of the blocks in my chalk paint in the color Castle, and I only did 1 coat of this paint as well. Once my paint has dried, I'm then lining up my blocks to see how I want my tree, and I ended up going with 2 rows for each section of my tree. Since I'm doing 2 rows for each section of my tree, I'm hot gluing 2 blocks together, and I did this for all 34 of my white blocks. Now that I have those glued together, I'm now going to be making the bottom section of my tree by gluing 5 of these 2 block sections together. I'm placing hot glue on the sides of the blocks and then holding them together until the glue is completely dried. To make the next sections for my tree, I'm gluing 4 of these 2 block pieces together. Then I'm gluing 3 of the 2 block pieces together. I'm also gluing 2 of these pieces together, and I did this 3 different times. Now that those are all glued together, to give my tree a distressed look, I'm taking my chalk paint in the color Castle, and I'm dry brushing that over all of the edges and the front of my wood pieces. You could always do this part after your sections are glued together, but I thought it was a little easier this way. Now that everything's painted, I'm going to be attaching all of my sections with some hot glue. I'm placing the hot glue on the bottom of the 4-section piece and then pressing it onto the 5-section piece to attach it. Next, I'm gluing the 3-section piece onto the 4-section, and then the 2-section piece onto the 3-section, and then gluing the 1-section piece onto the 2-section, and then I'm going to be taking another 1-section piece and gluing it vertical onto the other 1-section piece for the very top of my tree, and also gluing a 1-section piece in the center on the bottom of my 5-section piece. To make the stand for my tree, I'm gluing my castle colored blocks together. I'm gluing 3 of them in one direction and then the opposite direction for the 2 end blocks. Next, I'm attaching my tree onto the stand using some hot glue. I put the hot glue on the bottom of the tree and then just press it onto the stand. I'm cutting a small strip of burlap that I'm going to be attaching around the top of my tree. Now I'm wrapping the burlap around the top of my tree and then just tying a really loose knot and cutting off the excess burlap ends. I'm securing the burlap on the tree with a little bit of hot glue. Now I'm making a double bow. I'm zigzagging the ribbon through my fingers and then placing the end of the ribbon through the hole closest to my hand between my 2 fingers, then taking the end piece of ribbon and placing it through the loop that was around the bottom of my finger and then pulling it tight. I'm then attaching the ribbon on top of the burlap on my tree using some hot glue. I wanted a little color, so I'm adding this berry garland, and I'm just measuring 3 different sections around the top, middle, and bottom of my tree. To attach the garland, I'm flipping my tree over and placing some hot glue on the back side, placing the garland over top to attach it, then wrapping the garland around the front of the tree and bringing the opposite end to the other side and hot gluing that down. Then I'm just shaping the garland on the front the way I want it. Now I'm attaching 2 more strips of garland around the middle and the bottom of my tree, the same as I did the top strip, placing hot glue on the back side of my tree and then pressing the garland on the hot glue to attach it. Then once that's all attached, I'm shaping my garland the way I want it to be on the front of my tree. And this is my finished wooden tree. I think it is so cute and it fits perfect with a lot of my Christmas decor. Now let's move on to the next DIY, which is this wooden ornament shaped sign. For this project, I used an unfinished wooden ornament from Dollar Tree, a Happy Holidays unfinished ornament from Michael's, Deco art chalk paint in the color Lace, folk art chalk paint in the color Castle, Waverly chalk paint in the color ink and also in crimson, paintbrushes, scissors, jute, ribbon from Dollar Tree, painter's tape from Dollar Tree, and my hot glue gun. To start this project out, I'm taking my chalk paint in the color lace and I'm painting this over the unfinished wooden ornament, and I did have to do 2 coats of this paint. Once my paint is dried, I'm then taking a piece of painter's tape and applying it in the middle of my wooden ornament. This is going to help me keep all of my lines for my plaid really straight. I'm then using a second piece of painter's tape right next to the piece that I applied, and this is going to be used as my spacer piece. I'm then taking a third piece of painter's tape and applying it next to the tape that I just put down that I'm using as a spacer. And then once I have that all applied, I'm going to be taking off the spacer piece of painter's tape. And I'm continuing to repeat these steps until I have all of my vertical lines made with my painter's tape. After I have all of my tape applied, I'm then taking my chalk paint in the color Castle and I'm painting that in the spaces between all of the tape. And I did only do 1 coat of this paint. Once my paint has completely dried, I'm then peeling off all the pieces of painter's tape. Next, I'm going to be making my horizontal lines, and I'm going to be putting my painter's tape starting at the very bottom tip of my wooden ornament. Then I'm applying another piece of tape above that, and this is the one I'm going to be using as a spacer. After I have that one on, I'm putting another piece of tape on top of that and then peeling off the spacer tape. I'm continuing that step until I have all of my horizontal lines made. I needed a darker gray for my next color, so I'm mixing Castle and the colors ink together to make a more darker gray, and I realized that I probably should have mixed it on paper towel, but I didn't have anything around besides this. Now I'm painting on that gray color that I just mixed up in between all of the spaces going horizontally. Next, I'm applying some more tape, and I'm going to be putting it right in the same spots that I originally did my vertical lines, and you can see in the paint right where the stripes were, so I'm just putting the tape in those same spots. After all of my tape is applied, I'm then using my chalk paint in the color ink, and I'm painting that in all of the open space squares. Once my paint has completely dried, I'm then peeling off all of my painter's tape, all of the vertical lines and horizontal lines. I wanted to have a little bit of a distressing look to this, so I'm taking my chalk paint in the color lace and I'm just dry brushing that right over top of all of the darker colors. Now I'm painting the words on this wooden ornament with my paint color lace, and I made sure that I got all around the letters and edges. Since this is going to be 3D on top of the ornament, you're going to be able to see all of the edges. And then for the vines and the leaves, I used Waverly chalk paint in the color moss, and I only did 1 coat of this on the words and also on the leaves. And then for the berries, I painted them in the chalk paint color crimson. Now I'm going to be creating my bow. I'm cutting out 3 different size pieces of ribbon, a long one, a medium one, and a small one. The long one I'm going to be leaving on the bottom, and the medium and small one I'm going to be forming into circles. Unfortunately, I did not measure these. I just went with what I thought would be a good size on my ornament. Now I'm forming my circle on my medium and small pieces of ribbon with some hot glue. I'm placing the hot glue on one end of the ribbon and then pulling the ribbon over and attaching it to the other end. To make the bow, I'm putting the medium-sized circle on top of the long piece of ribbon and then the small circle on top of the medium one. Then I'm taking a piece of jute and wrapping that right around the center of all of those. I'm cutting off the long ends of my jute and then fluffing out the material of my bow. I'm putting a piece of jute through the hole that was originally on the sign and then just measuring it how long I want it to be, tying off a knot and then cutting off the ends. I'm attaching my bow with some hot glue right on the very top of my ornament underneath the hole where the jute is. For the last step, I'm attaching this Happy Holidays ornament right in the center of my wooden ornament using some hot glue. I'm putting the hot glue along the back of the ornament and then pressing it down onto the center of my wooden ornament. And this is my finished hanging ornament. I absolutely love how this one turned out, but we do still have one more DIY for today. I'll be showing you how I created these hanging Christmas tags. For this project, I used 2 tag ornaments from Dollar Tree. this season's greeting stencil from Dollar Tree, folk art acrylic paint in Old Ivy, Deco art chalk paint in the color Lace, Rust-Oleum spray paint in oil rubbed bronze, paintbrushes, scissors, Christmas ribbon from Dollar Tree, and bells from Dollar Tree. To start out, I'm spray painting my bells with this Rust-Oleum spray paint in oil rubbed bronze. I did end up only using 2 of these bells, but now I have the other ones already painted for later. I'm not going to be using this red ribbon, so I'm cutting that off of the top and then flipping mine over because this is the side I'm going to be using. Mine did have little sticky tags on the back, so I'm just peeling those off, and then I took a piece of sandpaper and just sanded off all that sticky residue. Now I'm painting both of my tags in the color Old Ivy, and this was not a chalk paint. I didn't have a chalk paint that was this color, so I used the acrylic paint that I have, and it does take a little bit longer for it to dry, so just keep that in mind if you're using this paint. And I did have to do 2 coats of it, and I made sure that I painted around all of the edges. After my paint has completely dried, I'm then taking my chalk paint in the color Lace, and I'm dry brushing that around all of the edges of both tags. Originally, I was just going to do the dry brushing around the edges, but later decided that I wanted them to have more of a distressed look all over, so I'm dry brushing on the tops of them as well. Next, I'm centering the word Seasons on one of my tags. I'm only using the word Seasons on this tag, and I'm stenciling with my stencil brush from Dollar Tree, and the color I'm using to stencil with is my chalk paint in the color Lace. Now, you could wear gloves or not. I got paint all over my hands while doing this. I like to hold each letter down as I'm stenciling. I find it a lot easier this way, and you don't have any bleeding, and the less paint that you use, the better. You can always add more layers of paint. See how nicely that turned out? I didn't have any bleeding. And then I did the same thing for my greetings word. I just centered it onto the second tag and then just stenciled it on the same way that I did Seasons, while holding the stencil down really, really tight while I stenciled over all of my words using a little amount of paint. Now I'm taking a piece of jute and stringing on one of my painted bells. Then I'm taking the other end of the jute and putting it through the already drilled hole on my tag. I'm stringing on another bell on this piece of jute and then using the other end of the jute to put through the already drilled hole on this tag as well. Now I'm pulling together all of my strands of jute, tying them in a knot, and then cutting off any of the extra long jute ends. Next, I'm making a bow just like I did in my last DIY. I'm cutting 3 strands of this Christmas ribbon, 1 long strand, 1 medium, and 1 small, and the medium and small ones I'm going to be forming into a circle using some hot glue on one end of the ribbon and then attaching it to the other side of the ribbon. I'm placing my larger circle on top of my flat piece of ribbon, then the smaller circle on top of the larger circle, pinching all of that together and tying a piece of jute around the middle. I'm cutting off any long ends of the jute, and once I have my bow all made, I'm fluffing out the material. For the very last step, I'm going to be attaching my bow onto the jute that I'm going to be using as my hanger using some hot glue. Here are my finished hanging tags. These were so easy to make, and I loved making all of today's DIYs. Let me know in the comments down below which one was your favorite, and if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps out my channel. If you're not subscribed, I would love it if you would subscribe, and be sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Thank you so much for watching.